Go.
Hey you guys, welcome back. It's been forever. It's been totally crazy and I want to apologize. Today what we're going to cover, I figured since it's been a while, I want to review, but I wanted to do a deep review. I've been substitute teaching at a particular school and you know, I think everybody teaches the way you're taught. And I'm glad that they were so detailed when I went to school. Too many years. I mean, people say, how long have you been doing hair? And I'll say, how old is your mother? Anyways, it's not that they don't know how to teach. It's that they're teaching the way they were taught, which is not wrong. But it makes it difficult because if we all learned exactly the same way, there'd be no reason. We'd have tunnel vision, everybody would go in the same direction. But because there's such a variable in learners, and one of the teachers, an excellent teacher, amazing gal, was complaining to me and saying, I told them how to do the clipper and they still go up too high. But she still doesn't want to go into the 15 section, so I never push it. I figure, you know what? If they don't want to do it, that's all there is to it. You never stop learning in this industry. Even, I mean, the other day I was doing a haircut. Let me just share with you guys real quick. And I have never seen this. There's been a few things that I have never seen, but this I've never seen. I volunteer at the senior center and I just do free haircuts there just for those people. And this one guy came in and I swear to you, from this side of his head, back at the nape, up into the occipital, his hair totally grew over to the other side. In other words, from right to left. I mean, it had a growth pattern that it was in a perfect circle and all the way down to the nape. And I have never seen that before. So I could see where people would struggle cutting his hair to make it look right. But knowing how to use your tools, and again, knowing where you're at. Where do we take it to maybe change the direction? What do we use to do that with? How do we handle it? You know, what do we have to do? Sometimes you just have to tell them, I'm sorry, this is the way your hair grows, and these are the options that we have. And that goes just back to experience. But, oh, before I keep going, I just want to thank you guys for the book. All of you that have purchased it, you have no idea how much I appreciate it. The hair color dictionary, I've got my readers going through it, and they want me to add more information. So I thought, oh my God, are you kidding me? So anyways, it's going to be still a little bit longer because, I mean, I appreciate my readers though. Because see, then you would have been my readers and you would have thought, God, I need more information. Well, they're telling me that. So I need to add more information on each level. You know, you've got this level, you apply this level of color, what's the result? And that my next video, I'll read a few of them to you, and like that, you can also give me some of your opinions as far as what information is it lacking, all right, or what information is it not lacking, all right, so you guys can tell me that. But anyways, today we're going to go deep into the head form, because if you don't know where you're at, you don't know where you're going. And that's a phrase that I continually use with my students. The head is round. There's not four corners in the head. There's several diagonal lines in the head form. And the hair grows differently. It doesn't grow like it does on the mannequin. So it can't just be, this is how you do it, because it isn't. And many times I tell my students, please, don't be afraid to ask your teacher, how did you do that and why did you make that decision? You're paying to go to school, whether you're in a vocational school or not. That is your time. And your time is how you're paying, because I know some of the vocational schools are quite reasonable, but you know, some of the other schools are not. They're a little more expensive. But the point is, the detail in the teaching needs to be there. And there is no tunnel vision, there is no just one way, not with the variety of people that are in the world. So what I want to go over today is every single part of the head form. There's 15 parts in the head form. So when I talk to you about these parts as we're doing a haircut, I'm going to be giving you the whys on it, why you need to know this, all right, and why you would handle it that way. So what I want to do first is I've just got my portable clippers here because I'm just going to take this off, and I was doing a little bit of a taper Just cleaning this up just a little more and practicing with it. So anyways, and you see how I'm holding the clipper at a diagonal? And so often, what are we taught? Just take it all the way up. Do it number 3, do it number 4, take it all the way up. All the way up to what? Do you understand what I'm saying? This is what I want to get you away from. I want you to know how to do a low fade. I want you to know how to do a mid fade, which is this. This is a slightly low but going into the center occipital. What determines that? The tip of the ear, right there. That's your guide. All right? It's as simple as that, but you knowing that. Is this advanced? No. This is basic. If you know these basic things, you begin to understand hair cutting and the variables much, much more. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to turn this on, and I'm going to go ahead and take this off. And like I said, this is just my little portable, so, and it's just about out of energy here. But I do want to mark this mannequin for you. And so while I'm doing this, I'd like you to get a sheet of paper, number that paper from 1 through 15. On the side, you already know how to draw a mannequin or how to draw a face shape. Remember, question mark, number 1, number 2, and that gives you the face shape right there. Question mark, 1, 2. That's it. It's not different. So do you see why I show you that way as opposed to just putting it on a circle and not doing anything with it? So I'm going to take the rest of this off. I did this with a clipper cut that I did as I was trying to teach how to fade. But initially you should learn how to fade. By the way, did I talk to you guys about my little hack that I've done with my mannequin stand? See, this one I paid about 50 bucks for. This one, I think I paid $3, maybe 4, at a thrift store. It's for cameras. Do it. It's a hack. It works. You guys, when you take your mannequins home, you're not going to take everything home, but they work just as good. I cut hair with them all the time. I style hair, and they hold it up just fine. So, all right, so I'm going to take this off, and as I mark this, I want you to mark yours as well. Now, if you have a mannequin that you can shave, then pause this, shave your mannequin, and let's really get down into the down and dirty. But I will be telling you why you need to know a variety of things. Now, I have promised someone, and I forget that subscriber's name, and but he wanted to know if I could do a vertical graduated cut, which is initially the A-line. Well, you can do it, but the thing is the A-line, and I thought, am I doing something wrong? Because I kept thinking, I know that this would be vertical, but vertical would make it very layered. The vertical A-line, the horizontal A-line will make it lay down a little more, but you're going to see some hard lines in there. Where you'll see, you know, when the hair falls, you'll see that straight line come down. Okay, I think we've cleaned it up pretty good. So I'm going to get my permanent marker, mark your page. I've got this back here. I know you probably can't see it too much. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. 15 different spots in this head form. So when we talk about it, you're going to know exactly where you have to go, exactly where you're at, and what you need to do with it. And, you know, as we speak it as well, I want to show you how to use certain tools. A mannequin is different than a head form, much different. So the head form is a variety of stuff. Most mannequins are just straight out. There's no cowlicks to worry about anywhere on them. Pretty much just the same. Some of them deliberately will put some in, but it's still not the same. Doesn't work the same. So let's talk about the first one. I'm going to try and do it with the red marker. I hope this works. So the very highest point of the head, and for you students, this is a state board question. What is the highest point of the head form? And that is the apex. It looks kind of like a goose egg up on top of the head, right here. And I'm going to go over it and over it and over it just a bit. And you'll notice that the circle pretty much stays about the same, and I'm not really measuring. So that's the apex. The reason for the apex, when you do the 180 haircut, you remember that, that is your shortest point. The thing about that is also your shortest point on a flat top. A flat top is identical to a 180, all right? So that's number one, the apex. Highest point of the head, shaped kind of like a goose egg. All right, now, the next part is going to be what is recognized by many books as the crest. Well, the crest, 2, 3, and 4, write crest, crest, crest on there. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to mark in the parietal line. The parietal line is in the middle of the crest. All right, so if you take a comb, put it this way, put another comb, I'm going to use this file, another comb in that direction, that is your parietal line. That would be number 3. So let's put number 3 in first, the parietal line, and I'm going to try and make that. And if you keep your comb or your pen perfectly horizontal, it should be exactly the same on the other side as I'm coming round. All right, the parietal line is the very center of what's considered the crest. Okay, there's one, there's the other one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back over it right here with the black one so that you can really see it. Same thing with the apex. I'm going to do it red first and then black. So maybe the 2 colors will bring it out for you. So you see that going around. That's number 3. That's the parietal line. I didn't call that number 2 because 2 and 4 are within the parietal line. The reason for the parietal line or the crest, it's called the curve of the head. If you put your hand on your own head, your hand will curve around. However, there's a specific reason for this curve and this crest. It's going to tell you when you can stop with the 180 because that's where it stops. The rest of the hair is just included. In other words, a 180, you start at the center, it's a traveling guide until you get to the parietal line. Now, do you see where that's starting to make sense to you? Same thing on the other side, till you get to the parietal line. Once you get there, then your subsections are just horizontal and they go right up to it. Excuse me. Still got a little bit of a cough. I actually had a cold too for a while. All right, so within that parietal line, within that crest, so you wrote on the number 2 crest, we're going to write upper ridge. And that travels all the way around. All the way around. Upper ridge. And many times there's going to be a reason for you to take it up to the upper ridge. Not as often as the lower ridge. The lower ridge is going to have a lot more purpose. So let me do it in black now too, so hopefully you can see it. It goes all the way around. So that's the upper area of that crest. It's a definite line. How do you know where it ends? If you put a comb there, where the comb leaves the head, that's where it ends. And then the apex begins. So this is what I mean. I mean, like if you go to a doctor and you have appendicitis, and he says, well, I think I'm going to go through your leg because I'm not exactly sure. I know it's close to that. Your appendix is about 4 inches to the right of your navel. Then the doctor knows where to go, right? If you have appendicitis. Otherwise, they're searching. You don't need to be searching. You need to know where you're at to know where you're going. So It travels all the way around, and actually it's also up in the front, but that has a slightly different purpose, but it also travels to that front area. If you take your comb, put it up at the front, it'll do the same thing where it leaves the head. That's the upper ridge line above the parietal line. That whole little, about inch, maybe inch and a half, is that upper ridge. Okay, number 4, the lower ridge is very important, because if you want to do a high fade, that's where you're going to take it to, the lower ridge. The thing that makes it simple for the lower ridge, normally when we have a clipper and we're going up, it literally will do that for you. It leaves the head at the lower ridge, and I'm going to show you here in just a minute. All right, so if I take my clipper, this clipper, there it is. It leaves the head at that area. So instead of going over to create a fade coming up, you want to go straight up and then carve out. Don't just carve out, because you're going to create a hard line. All right, that'll be a little bit more difficult to get rid of. So yeah, as it comes up, you see where it ends right there? Exactly where that arrow ends is where it comes off. That is your lower ridge for a fade or a guy's haircut that they want it trimmed all the way up without taking it to the parietal line. The parietal line, by the way, many times is used as a part. Certain areas within the upper ridge, sometimes that's used as a part for guys, and maybe that entire area is used as a part. Just depends on what they want. That goes back to fashion. So there's where your varieties are, all right? Okay, so number 4 was the lower ridge. Now, as I've stated, the front has the upper and lower ridge in it. However, it is a triangle. Now, those of you that are cutting bangs and you're creating a rectangle effect, that's why you have those little flippies. That's why you've got that little hair always growing out and driving you nuts. But if you part it again, starting at the end of the apex, or where the comb leaves the head, right there, you see this marker. I'm going to put the red one up there so you can see it better. Where the comb leaves the head, then you part it down to the parietal line in a triangular shape. Now, if you bring it straight out when you cut it, do you see where you're going to get 90 degree off of that center frontal fringe? Now, here's another law of cutting hair for you. When hair travels, it becomes longer. So if we have this area, 1, 2, 3, the frontal fringe or bang is what it's called. Frontal fringe or bang. So we've got this area. We're going to bring it straight out. Where's it going to be the shortest? If we bring this to the center, bring it to the center, where's it going to be the shortest? Yes, right there at the center frontal fringe. The good part about it is it will cup around the face and you won't have Dora bangs. You're not going to have that hard line. It's a real soft line. You bring it out and measure it to the bridge of the nose first, or lower, depending on what they want. You never take it, if they say they want it at the eyebrow, don't take it to the eyebrow, because when you let it go, it's going to go up higher. It all depends, because there's certain people that have cowlicks in this area. So you have to be careful about that. All right? So as you do that, you know that you're going to bring it straight out. Now here's another option for you. If she just wants just a little bit of a hint, what are these called? They're not called candlesticks, they're called something else. Got a drawing a brain fog right now. But anyways, they like those little pieces coming out. So just bring it to the nose before you cut it. Bring it to the chin before you cut it. And do you just see how the pen angles when I do that? Follows the head form. So when we bring it to the chin, or is this bang or certain area here, it's going to have this nice face framing to it. It's a real easy way to do it, but the main thing is you've carved it out, you bring it forward and cut it vertically, not horizontal. If you're going to cut it horizontal, then hold it straight up. You're still going to get that hard line and you're going to see it. But the main thing is, do it on a mannequin first so you can see the variables. Go the longest point first, mid, and then the shortest point, which would be straight up and down. This would be way too short. It'll pop up a little too much. But yeah, it gives it a real nice volume. Face frame's real nice. And they just love it because it's not Dora bangs and you're not just bringing it out, and they're not going to be able to do that by themselves at home. So that's a frontal fringe. That's number 5. All right, our next section is the temporal.
If you want them to read that, you have to kind of go down.
I'm not sure.
Oh,
I just threw my doll.
Don't
doll?
Don't kill them.
My mannequin down. My client, she's very unhappy. Okay, guys, I gotta bend over and get it.
You're just off camera.
I'm just off camera. Okay, good. Well, I mean, I'm telling them what it is, but what do you guys think? Should I move over? Can you read it? I mean, if you can read it, great. If you can't, that's why I'm giving you the words. But okay, let's go back. So the temporal area, we call it the flat part of the head. Now let's get real. We can call it the temporal area and never ever state that it's flat. So where do clients want volume? At the temporal area. They want it to stick out. They want it to stand out. So we normally just call it the flat part of the head and then identify it as a temporal area. So I've got it on that side. And do you see how it rests just slightly behind the ear? Because it's just going to be in front of the vertical crest. And you're going to understand that and the why in just a few minutes. So let's do the other flat part of the head. Right here. And then I'll do it in black so you can see it even better. And pause this. Pause it, write down your notes, look to see where you're at so you know where you're going. We're going to be very detailed with this because I'm going to go back and review all the haircuts and use only this language. So those of you that have studied this will get it. Those of you that haven't seen it, I'll be refreshing you and telling you to go back and look at this. So that's the temporal area. It is flat. Now, one thing about the temporal area, there's a variety of haircuts that we can do with this. I mean, it's amazing what you can do along that temporal area. And when we start showing the haircuts, especially the shorter haircuts to the longer haircuts, I mean, what do you do to create that volume that they want right there? And there are things that you do with your texture shears and the method of cutting, possibly even razor work. So just beneath that is another thing called the tragus. That little nodule on your ear, that little round thing right here, we never think about it, but the entire ear is a point of measure. We usually normally just say, do you want it covering your ear or above the ear? Okay, for you, instead of going back and forth, that little nodule is the very mid-center of the ear. So then there's no mistake. People say, well, some people's ears were higher on one side, lower on the other. Well, that just means they're normal, and you can tell them that. So if anybody, says, what's wrong with you, they can say, I'm normal, my stylist told me. But anyways, every part of the earlobe can be used. This area inside, look at the ear. What point of measure can you put right there? Because there's literally 1, 2, 3, 4 areas that you can look at to measure. And people that have their ears that fall back, that's nice. People that have their ears that come forward, you've got to be creative. All right? So it just depends on how they feel about themselves. So where's the tragus? That little nodule right here. That is number 7. Okay? So we've got the apex, upper ridge, lower ridge, parietal line, lower ridge, frontal fringe bang, flat part of the head, the tragus. Okay, so now we're going to start working on the back of the head. And everybody, 4 seconds or 4 minutes?
Minutes.
4 minutes, okay. We might break a little bit because I want to make sure that you understand everything and how to find it. Everybody has cowlicks right here. That's the reason that this word, not yet, I got to do the crown first. So the crown itself travels slightly into the apex, travels around and into the parietal line and some of the upper ridge and lower ridge. But you can actually put your palm on your crown. See, the mannequin's crown is round. If you put your palm on your palm is going to lay flat, which indicates that that is actually a flat area and not so rounded. All right, those are the realities of clients and mannequins. So in this area, we have the crown. The crown, within the crown and slightly above, okay, so the crown is number 8. Slightly above the crown, and then it just about half an inch up above, at the very center of the parietal line, is an area called the vertex. That is where the cowlicks are. If you want to know what that's called, that's the vertex. That's where you're going to make decisions, like these little boys that like to get their hair cut, and they've got the big whirl, and then it's sticking up. What do we need to do to take care of that? What do we need to do to make that lay down? What do we need to do that we can make it disappear so that their parents are much happy with it, and they don't have that little peak sticking up? Because that's the haircut they want, but that doesn't mean that's not what it's going to achieve. So that's the vertex. So we're going to travel down into the occipital. The occipital area is this entire area here. The occipital travels slightly into the crown. It's the entire back of the head. Within the occipital, there's the occipital area right here. All right, this is all of it. Within the occipital, and if you look at this, you can put your hand here. It's the vertical crest. Just like this crest, we have a vertical crest. The vertical crest, I'm going to just kind of dot it because I don't want you to be confused with all those lines. So I'm putting little stripes on there, but the vertical crest is extremely important because when you're cutting right to left or left to right, especially a 0, if you don't know where the vertical crest is at, that's where you're going to get one side longer than the other. It happens all the time. If you do have one side longer than the other, and see how it comes down, well, this is the edge of the nape line, back into the area behind the ear, but it just kind of fits in there. But if you know where it's at, what will happen when you're doing a 0, don't start cutting in the front of the head. Go to the vertical crest, bring it straight down, and look for that corner. Because what is this? We're coming across, turning. That's a corner. It may be a slightly rounded corner, but when you're using a straight shear, it becomes a slightly square corner. So the vertical crest is extreme, again, in knowing where you are to know where you're going.
You want to do
On
a
both
stop
sides.
start?
Okay, so we're going to do a stop start, and you won't know the difference.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see that. And you can see that if I put my hand there, that's exactly where it curves around. So when you're cutting, and even if the client has her head down and you're cutting, you're still going around. Now, here's a big factor. I notice that people start cutting on this side and then they travel all over to the other side. Now, I want you to notice something. I want you to just take note of something. I'm going to start here, all right? I'm going to start here. I'm cutting, 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 cutting. Do you notice that one is longer than the other side? That's a normal movement. But if you start here to the center back, go back, I mean, I'm going to be cutting in the other direction, but look at that. It's the same. You see what I'm saying? I'm not traveling out further. That's a normal movement. And it's the same thing when you're cutting a zero. Don't cut it straight across. Side to center, side to center. And if you need to go, of course, you know, you got all that hair straight down and you want to go straight across. Once you get beyond that center focal point, make your cuts shorter. Look at your shear. Look at your shear. Another factor when you're cutting really long hair, and I see it all the time, I see students do it, and I mean, when I tell them to have the client stand up, you're going to be doing this all day. You need your back and you need your legs. So have the client stand up. And you're going to find, even with my hand, if I bring it down, it's going to slightly bend. But bring that elbow in and the shear is straight. That doesn't mean that they still sit down. My recommendation still is have them stand up, bring your elbow in, make sure you bring it straight across. All tricks of the trade, things to know when you're doing hair cutting. Okay, so this is where you would go. When one side you've done a zero and one side is just slightly longer than the other, you come back here to look for that because this is where it happened, not here. You start cutting here and the flat part and go back, I hate to say here, on the flat part of the head, either right or left, and then start going back. You're going to cut and cut and cut, and before you know it, you've taken it shorter than what she wants. So always the vertical crest. All right, so now we're going to go into what's called the nape. The nape is real easy to find. If you take your index finger, bring your elbow up like you're going to poke your eye, put it on your ear, and just slide it. Don't direct it. Let it fall back by itself. You're going to find that it's going to go by itself right to your knowledge bone. It's going to do the same thing here. I'm not even looking at it. Do you see how it just does it by itself? To the knowledge bone, that very center nape. That's the nape line. Now when that teacher was complaining that the students went too high up, those students had no idea where that nape line was at. When we say just cut it to here, just cut it over here, here is not enough. You've got to know where you're at, again, to know where you're going. So the nape line starts at the tip of the ear in this area, comes down, okay, and I'm going to take it to the other side. Strangely enough, look at that. Strangely enough, it doesn't match. There you go. It matches pretty good. See, and I thought I was perfect. Man, oh man, that's a depressing thought. Okay, so there goes, that is your nape line. Don't be foolish like I was just a minute ago. Make sure you know where you're at, you guys. Okay, so the nape line, again, there it is. This is where I kind of messed up a bit. Okay, and there it is. Now, why did I get it right this time? Darker pen, I don't know. But anyways, that's the nape line. And it's going to follow the tip of the ear. This is where you learn how to do a taper cut. This is where you learn how to do that low fade before you come up. And don't think that you can just get a clipper and start going in with a low fade and taking it off. My recommendation when you're practicing on a mannequin to do a fade of any kind, always start out with a number 5 guard. Personally, I never use guards. I freehand it anymore. But then, of course, that's from the number of years I've been doing hair. But you start with that. And then learn how to carve. I will be covering a class on that. Taking a little bit longer hair and then bringing it down to where we can fade it. And of course, you've got to put the head forward too and all of that stuff. So that's necessary that you do that. But within this area, inside that crest area, is an area called behind the ear. Right here. And it goes right to, kind of almost like a little half circle. Same thing on the other side. Starts right at the tip of the ear, almost like a half circle right there. It's inside the nape. That's called behind the ear because it's behind the ear. One made it a simple term, just the area behind the ear. All right. The reason that area again is important is because there's cowlicks there. Guys are going to come in with cowlicks, and if they've got one like that, I was just amazed. I've never seen that before. This man's hair literally, even this area at the lower nape, grew in this direction. And here I'm thinking to myself, man, how am I going to take this and just give it a nice taper to come in? Because that ain't going to lay down. You know, he's going to have one look on this side and one look on the other. I mean, he was happy with his haircut, but still, you know, and it was a good lesson for me personally. But the cowlicks here are either going to grow up, and now this is a factor. You take somebody and you give them a bob this close, all right? And of course you're going to blow dry it, send them home and all that. Then they go home, and what's going to happen if one side grows up and one side grows down? And that hair looks like it's crooked. It's not. It's that cowlick. And this is where, talk to your clients. Tell them this is how your hair grows. What happens with that is they gain a respect for you as a student. You know this, you know, and like I said again, ask the teacher and ask him in front of the client, can you tell me why you did that and how did you do it? Can you show me? A lot of times when I work with my students, I'll ask them, what side are you comfortable with? Because, I mean, I'll tell the client, thank you, this is a school, this student is learning. So the student will do one side and I'll do the other. That's a school. This is a real head that we're working on. I mean, this isn't, but you know that. So take advantage of everything you can learn. Don't feel like you're going to be humiliated or you don't know, because you know what? You don't know. You're learning. That's called learning. So it's okay for you to do that. So the area behind the ear, all right, and the reason for that, again, is it's important that you know, is because of the cowlicks that grow there. Whether it be real short or whether it be, you know, a bob haircut, longer hair, that'll kind of weight it down a bit. You know, it's not going to be too much, but still, yeah, it'll do that. Okay? There's two more. So we have the apex, upper ridge, parietal line, lower ridge, frontal fringe, flat part of the head, tragus, crown, vertex, vertical crest on both sides, nape, behind the ear, and the next one is the interior, inside. That's everything inside. All of these rest on the interior. Now, there are books and companies that say that the area below the parietal line, they don't identify the parietal line, they identify the crest. But anything below the parietal line is the interior, and anything above the parietal line is the exterior. Well, I would be confused with that, because it depends on how they're going to wear the hair and where are we going to take it to. So this is the interior. It's inside, right? It's inside what? The last one, perimeter line. It's inside the hairline. And all of those inside the hairline are factors on the results that you're going to get if you know where you're at and you know where you're going. So if I'm working with you, if I'm teaching you, and once I teach you how to carve, and I tell you, take it to the lower ridge, you already know that you're going to take it to where the comb leaves the head. And even the clipper will do it for you, because the clipper itself leaves the head right there. And you can see that. Okay? So you're not going to go above it. So you're going to go straight up and out. Just carve out with it. And it'll automatically start slightly fading it for you. So, you know, there's so many factors. And then working with my students before and teaching them how to fade, we went from longer hair to shorter hair. You don't go immediately into shorter hair, because what? Mannequin hair doesn't grow back. So taking baby steps is much better. So perimeter line, I just usually make these little dots all the way around, just like the crest, and then I follow it through. I'm just going to do a little, just half of it here, just for you to see it, and I'll finish it later. But see, that's the perimeter line, or the, I don't want to call it the exterior, because it's not outside, it's just a wall. that protects everything that's in the interior. So when we get into hair cutting, when we get into all those factors, this is what's going to make it or break it for you. Remember, there's 15 points. It is not 4 quadrants. Think about it. If I'm going to do the uniform layer, I'm going to pick it up at the center top, which would include the frontal fringe, the center apex, and slightly into the crown. I'm going to hold it up vertically, or not vertically, but I am going to take it what we call side to side. I'm going to take a subsection side, bring it straight up, in other words. And you know what's funny? I got to share with you. They call it the 180, right? Well, the only place that it is a 180 is right here at the parietal line, because 360, right? So a 180 is straight up. But what is it at the frontal, at the upper ridge? What is it at the apex? At the apex, it's a 90. But we call it a 180 because it means hold it straight up. So these are just kind of little factors and stuff for you to know if you want extreme details on hair cutting. But when I tell you, just take it up to the lower ridge. What was nice when I was teaching full time, I would tell my students that, and because they knew the head form so well, then I could just tell them, okay, you know, take it up to that. I could look across the room, and that's exactly what they did. There was no room for error because they knew where they were at. They knew where they were going. And one thing that we all called the nape line, when they were working on the nape line, they'd say, you mean the happy face? Well, does that look like a smile to you? So they knew to just take it and create that with their clipper, that smile, that happy face. So here's little clues for you, you know, on knowing what to do. But one thing I will be doing on my next class is I want to take this mannequin, and you can see where she's really soft on this side, and I can ruffle it. And this is normally what this looked like. It looked even worse before I shampooed it. So I only did half of it. But this has been razor cut to lay down to control. And if you understand the concept in cutting, what did I say earlier? Shorter moves longer, right? Let's look at the hair shaft here. Cameraman, can you get that? Mm-hmm. Let's pretend that's a hair shaft. When you cut with a razor and your stroke is down, you're going to be cutting at this angle. So if we have the stroke going down, shorter moves longer. It's going to make it lay down. If I would have gone with the razor up, that shorter side, because that's minute. Do we see it? No, but it's there. It's minute. And then of course I did some stuff with the texture shear, and I'll show you how to do that as well. But there's your why it lays down. And people with wavy or, you know, really full hair, sometimes they wonder, what can I do with this? And when you become the miracle worker and do it for them, now to some extent, all right? You can't do it on everybody. If they've got coarse hair, that's not a different story, but it's a little bit harder, but you can help them control it. You knowing how to do that takes you a notch above the others. All right, so anyways, yeah, I'll be doing the class on this other side. We'll be doing some razor work on it. I'll show you how to do it with a texture shear, and then both sides will look the same. But she was really a bush head before. But there's a lot of other classes, and on that graduated cut, I will definitely do one completely vertical. But remember, I believe more that it's not vertical, it's diagonal. It looks vertical, but be exact on your statements, because we can say we're cutting it vertically, but when you're holding the shear diagonally, you're cutting it diagonally. And that goes back to precision hair cutting and, you know, how far do I know? And don't ever be afraid to ask questions when you see my videos. If there's anything that I can help you with, I'll let you know what my readers say about the hair color dictionary. I'm afraid it's just going to take longer because I've got to go through every chapter now and add a whole lot more information. But I can see why. I mean, there are no color products named. It's just color tones that are going to have to be brought in there and named, and where you're at on the 12 levels of color, and what strengths and weaknesses there are, and all of that nonsense. But yeah, it's hopefully it'll help you guys, and my readers have been great. So thank you very much. Be blessed. Oh, and by the way, this is Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. Have a Merry Christmas. Take care.